This is the bit where I always wish I had hold music whilst I get everything started for the night. Okay, I think we are good to go. So we are up and we are recording, and I would like to welcome absolutely everybody to our Coding Black Females Lightning Talks. We absolutely love these because it's a great chance to hear some great stories and some great technology deep dives as well from fantastic people across the community. And I'm very excited to say that we have people joining us from all over the world this evening, and there'll be people joining us on YouTube as well for the live stream. For anybody who hasn't been to a Coding Black Females event before, we are a fantastic organization that was set up back in 2017, ready to connect fantastic Black women in the tech industry and people who are looking to progress within the industry too, or start out their careers. So we've had around 20,000 members now all over the world, all joining in with different activities that we do, whether that's our events, going out and getting new jobs with us, starting on our mentor programs, or doing the training that we provide as well. So whatever you're looking for, Coding Black Females has it on offer, which is always really exciting. But we don't want to hear from me. We want to hear from our amazing speakers. So I'm going to hand over to Dorothy, our very, very first speaker of the night, who's going to talk about customer segmentation analysis. Over to you, Dorothy.
Hi, Shalin and everyone. I'm happy to be here, and I'm also happy to share my speak today, the talk that I'm going to take you through. That's customer segmentation analysis. So let me just share my screen. First of all, my name is Dorothy Akwas, and I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. Yes, so I'm a software developer by profession, Coding Black female speaker, let me just put it that way, Zindi community ambassador here. So I'm all those, but I major in mostly in software development, yeah. So let me just share my screen and yeah, so that's all. So, I hope everyone can see my screen. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Just shoot it. Okay. So yes, so today I'm going to take you through what actually customer segmentation analysis is. So this one, I just like put it in general. I didn't like major in tech, but I'll also be able to explain it in a technical way, like just as a techie person. Yeah, women in tech, as you all know. So, customer segmentation analysis is just a way of like discovering insights that define specific segments of the customers. So let's say that your company or the company that I'm currently working for, let's say they need some they need like to market their companies and market the organization or market anything that the products that they are building or the solutions that they are building. So this is how like they'll be able like to get the campaigns or offers of the product leverage when communicating with specific segments. So one of the importance of customer segmentation analysis, it's that it has the potential to allow like marketers to address each customer in the most effective way. So just explanation, a little bit of explanation of that the point means or it's all about. It's kind of this one it allows the marketers to divide like customer into groups based on their shared characteristics, that's such as demographics. So when I talk of demographics, that is can I put it, location or the country where that person is located, the behavior of that person. Let's put it this way. So the behavior his or her lifestyles, yeah, and the preferences, yeah. So by doing so, marketers can be able to create targeted marketing strategies and personalized experiences that resonate with each customer's segment. Yeah, so the next slide. So I think these ones are customer markets. So these are the ones that I've just explained in the first slide. The geographic, demographic, and psychographic and behavioral of the customer. So let's put it this way, like customer markets, like let's say we are marketing for, or we need to do analysis for the people that we are selling our products to. So we have to know like the geographic, like where do they come from, like what are their behaviors, like, yes, and they are psychographic, yeah. So we have to know all those, like when we are like marketing, or when we are marketing our products, who are our customers. So we are going to identify this by in terms of their location and their behaviors and their demographic. How much are they earning? How much, like which kind of work are they doing? Yes, so that's all. Yeah. So in our next slide, so this is just how we are going to measure like the growth and the size of the customer segments. So this is just in terms of the bar graphs and the linear graphs. So here it's kind of we are going to like to measure the products that we are selling to our customers, or we are marketing to our customers. So here we will be able like to see the sales that we've made and the profits also that we've made. Yeah, so it's in terms, like, let's say, and also this includes like, or it is in terms of the, so we are going to measure this in terms of the yearly or monthly, so the market sales and the net profits that our customers will bring into our company, yeah, in terms of the products that we are offering them to. Yeah. To our next slide. So this slide, like, it explains how do we like understand our customers that we are marketing our products to or for. Yeah. So we need to understand our customers. So, and also we have to know like what they want, or what they do, or when they are going to buy them, or how are they going to buy, or what they are expecting from us. So let's take an example. Maybe my company is maybe in Kenya. Let's just take an example from Kenya, because I'm coming from there. So I'm creating a web application solution for an e-commerce website, right? So it's let's say we are building it for the customer, for one of our clients. So we are not going to create a solution that like it will only favor the company, but also we have to consider like what the client really needs from us, from that solution, like what he really needs. Let's take an example. I'm creating a product, and the customer needs me to do a click button for like when his or her customers clicked on it, he or she can be able like to add the cart, right? But as for me, as a developer in my company, I didn't do like the right thing for my client. It's like I'm just going to create like a button for only adding okay, adding the products to the cart, but not exactly like what the client wanted. Like I will do it opposite of what the client wanted from me, expecting from me. So we also need to understand like the needs of our customers or the needs of the client, whether you are working for whether you are a developer working for a certain product or creating a certain product for the client. Yes, so we really need to understand them, and yeah, so also we need to understand our customer needs. Yeah. So in the next slide, so this is just the advertisement awareness. So here it's kind of when we are advertising our products, like we have to be loyal, and so that we can create like awareness during the advertisement, right? So we have to like to be loyal in terms of the clients' needs, because like we don't have like to just advertise it for our own benefit. So we have to be loyal and like be able like to exactly advertise what our company or what my company is really doing, not like we are just going to advertise something that is not even there. So yeah, it was, yeah. So this thank you all for listening, and I hope maybe you've understood something from the customer segmentation analysis. And my name is Dorothy Accord, and I'm a software developer by profession from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm also a Zindi Community Lead Ambassador and Coding Black Females speaker. Yes, I've been like speaking here for like since 2022. Yeah, so I've been given Coding Black Females have been given me opportunities to speak here to showcase my skills in coding mostly, and sharing my journey. And I've been so proud of it, and I'm really grateful. So thank you all. If you have any question, you can chat me. So I've not provided my social media platforms, though in LinkedIn you can find me Dorothy Accord, and in Instagram I'm at Akot Wangara. And yeah, so only those ones. So thank you all for listening. I hope I've keep the time. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And you've absolutely kept the time, so do not worry about it at all. I had a quick question. Oh, actually, we have a question in the chat. How do you measure the success of customer segmentation of analysis in your company?
So so we have like, can I say like we have how can I put it? We have we have how can I put it? Okay, we measure it in terms of the perform, like, can I say that since we are the developers in our company, so we measure it in terms of how quick you are able to deliver like your work or your whatever that you are building. So that's how we measure, like we just measure it in terms of how quick are you, like how quick. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. If we have any more questions, we will have time at the end as well for questions as well. But thank you so much, Dorothy. Really, really insightful as well. I am going to move on to our next speaker, which is Lauren, who's going to talk about Agile, an introduction to Agile 101. Over to you, Lauren.
Brilliant, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Okay, you should all see that. So hey everybody, I wanted to do this talk today because I believe that when we speak about women and people in general getting into tech, we mostly think about people becoming engineers, data analysts, testers, but there isn't much talk about the non-technical roles that are available. And I did a course many moons ago, which exposed me to a lot of these technical concepts. So I was creating web pages and databases, and there was a bit of user design. But I didn't really click with any of those concepts. There was nothing in there for me that I felt I could pursue a career in. But I did really want to get into tech. It was, the in thing at the time. And luckily, it led me to discover some of the non-technical roles that are available. And that's what I want to sort of share and talk about today. So let me just back up a little bit and introduce myself. I'm Lauren, and to be honest, I was going to remove that first bullet point, but it is my purpose, it's my why, and being a mum, it really influences the way that I work, where I work, how I work, and my passions for what I want to do going forward. I've been in tech for over 20 years. But it wasn't until I sort of stumbled into the Scrum Master role around 15 years ago that I really started to enjoy it. I hadn't planned on becoming a Scrum Master, and if truth be told, I'd never even heard of it. I didn't really know what was expected of the role, and it took a while to really understand it. But, I get to understand it's a very powerful and impactful role, and one that I really enjoy. And that's why I want to share some of my experience with others, through coaching and mentoring, particularly people who are women, especially who are moving into tech or, starting out in their careers. So is everyone familiar with waterfall and or agile as software development frameworks? Maybe you could give me a thumbs up or any comments. Oh, I see a few thumbs. So what I thought I'd do is just give a quick summary for everybody of the two approaches. So waterfall, and this is when you're thinking about developing a project, a piece of software, whatever it might be, you have these almost two opposite approaches. Waterfall is a very linear, sequential process. It's structured. You don't often move to the next step until you've completed the last, and there are, gates and sign-offs and things that are required before you move on. It's quite rigid, but also it's predictable, which some people like, and it can mean that change is quite costly. And throughout the process of developing, there's not a lot of interaction with your customer. Agile, on the other hand, is pretty much opposite to waterfall. So we'd still do all of the steps that we would do in a waterfall process, but we do it in small cycles. So it's an iterative and it's an incremental process. It's flexible and adaptive. You continually have contact with your customer and get feedback. You have collaborative teams, and you're prioritizing delivering value and responding to feedback at every avenue. And I wanted to ask, does anyone know of any agile frameworks? Are there any that you could mention? SAFe, yeah. No others? Okay. So within Agile, there are many frameworks: Scrum, Kanban, Lean, XP, SAFe you just mentioned, and there are many more. And I thought what I'd do is just give a very quick summary of Scrum, because it's probably the most famous, and it's the one that is the easiest to begin with when you're new to adopting Agile as a way of working. So in Scrum, you work in short cycles, and we call them sprints. And these can range from 1 to 4 weeks in length, depending on the team, the company, the project, but generally it's sort of accepted that 2 weeks is an ideal time for a sprint. So at the beginning of the sprint, the team would get together and agree on a sprint goal. So that's the sprint planning session. They agree a sprint goal, and that's something that they believe is achievable within that time box. In that session, they'll look at their product backlog, and this is their list of work that they've already discussed and ironed out and understand very well. And they'll pick out the pieces of work that they think will satisfy that goal. And then they begin work. So they start picking up the pieces of work, maybe assigning it to the individuals in the team. And then each day they meet and they'll discuss, how's progress going? Are there any issues or blockers or concerns that will stop us from realizing our goal? And then take action. So someone will, volunteer and pick up something and help someone to ensure that there are no blockers. At the end of the sprint, the team hold a sprint review meeting. And in this session, you would invite in stakeholders, possibly customers, external customers, depends on the session and the team. And then that's where you present what you've completed within the last sprint and you ask for feedback. And this feedback should influence what you do going forward. So, it could be decided that actually we're going to take a different direction, or we're going to pursue an area that we maybe hadn't thought of. The final ceremony of the sprint is the retrospective. And this is a meeting where the team get together to reflect on how well the sprint went. You take time to acknowledge and celebrate the things that went well, and you raise things that maybe didn't go so well and think about what you could do differently. And the idea is that you come out with 1 or 2 actions that will ensure that the following sprint is better than the current sprint. So when we talk about the Scrum team, the Scrum Guide defines the team as the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the team. And when we say the team, we mean software engineers, test engineers. And they're the core that should always be present in a Scrum team. But often companies have different needs, and so they'll have other roles within that. So you can see I've listed here a business analyst, an engineering manager, DevOps, a designer, UX. There are various roles, and some choose to have them embedded within the Scrum team, and other times they are separate. And of those roles that I've just mentioned, you will recognize that some are technical people and some are non-technical. So again, I've mentioned the Scrum Master, the business analyst, and the product owner. Today I'm going to speak a little bit in more detail about those 3 roles. So I'll start off with the Scrum Master, and I've mentioned Scrum Master quite a lot in the last few minutes, but I've also put on here Agile Coach and Delivery Manager, because those 3 roles, the differences are nuanced. So it depends on the company, depends on the project. You might have 1 or more of those roles, but they overlap quite a lot. So which is why I've just bumped them all together here. So the goal of the Scrum team is to be self-organizing and self-managing. The Scrum Master's objective is to make themselves redundant. And that might sound a bit weird and a bit strange if you're in that role, but you don't want your Scrum team to be reliant on the Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master's responsibility is to model the behavior that they want to see from their team. It's to train them, to coach them, to show them examples of how they can, be self-managing. And I've just thought I'd highlight here a few of the key skills that a Scrum Master will represent. So facilitation, teaching, coaching, servant leadership, and conflict resolution. And then we can talk about the business analyst. So I've been in many, many teams, and I can say that a great business analyst can be the heartbeat of the team, because they're the connector. They're the person who connects the team with the stakeholders. They communicate with a variety of people, particularly the stakeholders, to understand the requirements that the team are going to have to satisfy. And then what they do is translate business speak, as you might call it, into language that the development team can understand, so that they can really get a picture of what it is they're being requested to do and to define it and to start building. A business analyst needs to be very detail oriented in order to ask as many questions as possible to make sure that they can really understand what it is that we're being asked to do, why we're being asked to do, what is the purpose, and that they can therefore communicate that with the team. And that's, whether they're communicating into the team or outwards to maybe demonstrate what the team have come up with or what questions the team have. And again, I thought I'd put here a few of the key skills that a business analyst would demonstrate. So yeah, very high up on the list is that attention to detail and strong communication. But also really important is thinking about, being a critical thinker and, really questioning things. And then the final role that I thought I'd touch on today is the product owner. And again, product owner, product manager, different companies, these roles will be defined differently, have different responsibilities. Some companies you will only have one or the other. Some companies you'll have both and they'll have different responsibilities. So if the Scrum team are responsible for the how in terms of the thing that we're building, the product owner is responsible for the why. They need to be able to understand what the customer wants and potentially what the customer doesn't even know that they want yet. What challenges is the customer having? What are the competition doing? Or even what are they not doing? Where are there opportunities that we could step into, a gap in the market? And one of the really key things that the product owner does is prioritization. They set the direction for the team. They're always very, finger on the pulse of what we should be doing, and the team look to them for direction as to what we should do next. So leadership is incredibly important. Organization, being problem solving, critical thinking, and really that strong stakeholder management. They need to be communicating inwards and outwards constantly. So unless you've been in one of these roles or, a very similar role already, you probably feel that you don't have the skills to satisfy and apply for one of these jobs. But I would definitely challenge that by asking you now, maybe putting you on the spot a bit, but can you think of any transferable skills that you would be able to apply to some of these roles that I've just mentioned? Is there anything, can anyone shout out? Anyone think of anything? We've got presentation skills, yep. Yeah, absolutely. Project management, critical thinking is a big one, and that crosses over many of these roles. Attention to detail, absolutely. So yeah, I've put a list here of a few, but I think you guys have got it. Like I can see loads of the ones that I had thought of, and there's tons of them. There are a load of transferable skills that we have that we just don't realize can be applied to some of these jobs. So I can definitely suggest that you just think about, what can I do? What have I got there? And how can it be applied to some of these roles? And I thought what I'd do is also show you this. It's a little snippet from a job ad that I saw recently. And in there, first thing that I would say to everyone is these job ads are like a laundry list of all the things that, Mr. Recruiter wants today. So don't be put off by that. Women are renowned for thinking they shouldn't apply for a role unless they tick every single box, and that's just not the case. We sort of count ourselves out before we've even got going. And now, if we look a little bit closer, there are obviously areas in there where you need, or they would prefer you to have industry knowledge, and that's the line that I've highlighted in blue there. And for that, yes, you will need to do your learning, your research, your study, whatever it is to just get up to a base level to be able to hold a conversation in the industry. But then I've highlighted some areas in yellow and things that we've just sort of touched on, where you can use previous work experience that might not necessarily be in the tech industry. It might be in another industry, or it might just be in your daily life. But you can use some examples where you've demonstrated that you have an eye for detail or you're willing to lead, and bring those to these conversations and interviews. Just go into the session with lots of examples. Just have a backlog of examples ready to just share some of your experiences when you go in. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was really interesting. And I think it's always useful to talk about the non-technical tech roles because we focus so much, especially, we focus so much on coding, DevOps, all that sort of stuff. And hearing about the non-technical side is actually super beneficial. And these roles are so important to being able to deliver as well. So thank you very much for that. We have a question here. What would you say are the effective ways to approach sprint retrospectives?
It depends on which role you are in that conversation. If I'm the facilitator, I always try to bring a different format. So try to keep it interesting. Try not to go in. I've been in companies and teams and worked with Scrum Masters where it's like every week, what was bad, sad, and glad, and the team just rebelled in the end because it was just terribly boring. So try to mix it up, try to get the people thinking in different ways. What you need to do also is create a safe and trusted, whatever's said in these four walls stays in the four walls. It needs to be a safe place and open. And that doesn't happen overnight. You can't just say it's a safe place and then everyone feels it. You'll have to build that team spirit. But yeah, just model that behavior as well. Be open, be honest, and then ask people to share with you.
Thank you. We have another question. What resources or direction for next steps to transition from PM to Scrum Master?
You need to look probably into what courses would be available to you. There are some, I coach someone in a agile project management course. So that was like starting to learn the concepts of agile, but still with the PM influence. And yeah, I would start looking at that, start looking at certified Scrum Master courses and take on a mentor, take on a coach, start speaking to other people to learn, what it's like to work in an agile environment.
Fantastic, thank you. I did have a couple as well. And you don't have to go into detail, but one of my questions was, what is your preferred agile framework?
I think Scrum really works. I think after a while, it gets a bit of a bad rep. People feel like it has too much process. But as I said at the beginning, if you are new to the process, I feel like it's one of those things where you need to learn to walk before you run. So if you're new to the process, you're new to like this way of working, it's good to just get everyone on the same page with the same mindset. Once people have that mindset, you can start stripping away some of the process.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, thanks, Lauren. Super insightful again. And I'm going to hand over to Promise, who will talk about her transition into tech and journey so far. So over to you, Promise.
Thank you. Let me share my screen.
Excellent.
Okay. Now, hi everyone. It's quite exciting to be here this evening to talk about my journey into tech. So first of all, I want to thank the Coding Black Female for the privilege to share my journey with you. And without further ado, a brief introduction about me. My name is Promise Nwafo, and I'm from Nigeria. I studied microbiology in school before I became a software engineer. So currently, I'm working as a front-end engineer with a company in the US. I work fully remote, and I'm also a digital nomad currently. I'm in the UK now, but sometimes you can find me in Malta, Amsterdam, anywhere the weather is nice, actually. Sometimes I want to visit. So, and I'm also a YouTuber. So when I'm not coding, sometimes I try to share information with people. And with that, let's get into the business of the day, which is like, how did I get into tech? How did I transition? And why did I transition? So first of all, after studying microbiology, I would say, sorry about that, I think. Okay. So after studying in school, microbiology, I was already in Nigeria. I studied in Nigeria, so I was already thinking, what does the future hold for me? As someone that as a microbiologist, and in Nigeria we don't have a lot of jobs for microbiologists and maybe biochemists, and I didn't want to end up working at the banks, so I had to, and think about what do I want to do next. And then also I had a friend that her sister also transitioned after studying mechanical engineering in school to becoming a software engineer as well. And she was being paid well then in Lagos. So that was quite motivating for me. I said, yeah, I can do that as well. And I was already interested in tech, actually. So that was already during lockdown, COVID lockdown in 2020. And then I just had to analyze my skills, to know like what skills do I have now? What skills do I need to acquire, to move into tech? And unfortunately, as a microbiologist, I didn't have a lot of overlapping skills. So I just had to, start from scratch. So luckily then we have a lot of platforms then offering some discounts for people that want to go into tech, So I utilized some of them. I got some courses from Udemy, Introduction to Web Development. And like I started from there. I was learning on my own, I kept learning, but I didn't have anybody. So sometimes I would feel like, what am I doing, So I guess I had more passion than I knew because I almost gave up. I didn't have anybody. It was totally locked down, and I mean, I needed to gist with somebody here. Here is my experience, here is a challenge I'm having now. But I didn't have that. And I mean, I didn't give up. Then, because I was following a lot of groups on Twitter, on Facebook, that was how I got into a community called She Code Africa, where it helps women that wanna also switch or that are already in tech. So I joined the community then. So it was quite exciting for me because when I joined, I saw a lot of newbies like me. I said, oh my God, I'm not alone, So I made some connections there. We started like marking one another. How is it going? How is that? So I kept learning. I mean, I didn't stop learning, and then I was building some basic projects on my own, because it was already exciting for me. I decided to go into front end because I mean I loved that. When I build, I visualize. So because when I was just learning JavaScript and Python, I was like asking myself, how am I going to apply this? Where am I going to apply this? It was not really exciting, especially when you don't have anybody beside you. So, but I was really excited when I was doing HTML or CSS, and I was seeing, yeah, it's working. Even as little as they were then, I was sharing with a lot of people, like a lot of people see what I've done. So I was doing that, and eventually I got into an unpaid internship where just a group of newbies like me as well. We were we were told to build companies, landing pages, websites, and nobody wanted to lead the team. I said, oh my God, I'm a newbie. Why would I? Okay. So I decided to be the team lead. I was a newbie, but I was also leading a bunch of newbies. So we were doing our things together, and quite challenging because then some people might not have light, electricity. Some people might not have laptop, different things. So I would find myself doing all the work. But no problem, I will do it, and that's fine. But eventually, the unpaid internship ended, and I got a role as a front end developer intern as well in Lagos, Nigeria. So I was an intern again for front end, and I was excited because for the first time, let's practice. But when I got into start practicing, I was now moved again to mobile app. So I was told to start learning Flutter to do mobile app. Leave your front end, leave your React, do mobile. So I was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to start practicing React. But because I needed the money, I needed to put food on my table. So I started learning. I started doing mobile app for the company. I was the only one also. Yeah, it was quite weird, but I was the only one doing the mobile building an app like that. But anytime when I got home, I would still try to practice my React just on my own. But then eventually the app didn't launch. The team got disbanded even before we launched. And that was it again. I was moved away and the company decided to retain me. I don't know why, but I was now told to learn WordPress. That's in a CMS for building websites again, not coding. So I was told to start learning it because I was going to be using it to build websites for our clients then because I was working with a digital marketing agency. So I was learning WordPress. I started using WordPress, but then when I go home, I will still do React. So it was already becoming so like, what am I doing? I've never even practiced React until I told my boss then, like I wanted to do something for the what's it called? I wanted to do something for the team, the content managers there. And because I found out they were having the challenge of reporting every day, they'll have to impute manually the metrics from social media. So I decided to, yeah, I want to code it. I told my boss. So she allowed me. I decided because I was the only tech person at all in the agency, I had to be the front end, the back end, the designer. So I did it. I just utilized Google Firebase, Firestore for my database and stuff. And I did the app and it was working well. So everybody was excited then to use it. Me, I was more excited because, oh my God, for the first time, I was like, I built something that people were using. Like I had to show it off as well to a lot of people. And yeah, and I decided to start applying for other roles because I needed to belong to a good team. It's time. So I started applying, but then I met a friend that was I met a friend. He was a what is it called? Senior developer. So I told him, please analyze my skills, my code, and tell me what I'm missing before I start applying very well. So I got quite discouraging feedback from him because he was like, no, your code is so bad. No, I can't look at this now. No, stop applying. You should take 3 months again, keep learning before you start applying again. Please. So that was really discouraging for me. It was harsh, even if my code was, it was really harsh, but I still took the feedback. I kept learning, but I didn't stop applying because I already knew, like, what am I to lose? Let me apply and see the skills that are required. So I kept applying just within before a month after getting the feedback, I joined like I got the interview for this my current role. And I mean the technical interview, I was being asked, your achievement. And so I just didn't hold back talking about the dashboard I built and the agency for reporting, and they were quite intrigued, like what technologies did you use? That's nice. Why did you choose that? Why? So they were intrigued. And after all the interviews and stuff, I got the role. And that was really like wonderful for me. So it was wonderful because even the guy that gave me the sad feedback was still working with a Nigerian company, earning so less. Even when I was doing the interviews, I told everyone because I never knew I would get it because I felt like, no, my skills cannot take me there now, you know. No, but everybody was surprised. I was surprised. But I was really excited. Let me put it that way. And because the company, they didn't mind. I was in Lagos then, Nigeria. They didn't mind the location and stuff because I mean, till date, I'm the only non-US citizen working with them. Like they didn't mind the location. They just wanted someone qualified for it. And I proved myself, and they picked me. So that was really exciting then. And that was how I started. I mean, when I joined the company, it was um quite when I joined the company, it was quite challenging because I had never had any team experience, any much, collaborative experience. But I just decided to pick up by, checking out the seniors code, checking out the code base, knowing like when taking feedback, also any comment that is made on my code, taking the feedback and not repeating it again. So I picked up very fast that, I got recognized immediately in the team. So everybody was just proud. Let me put it that way. Even when there were like a couple of layoffs, a lot of my colleagues were laid off, but like I still remained. I mean, I felt like they saw the value in me and they just didn't want to let me go. So till then, and at some point I was recommended for a promotion, so it kept going so fine. And yeah, that's how it's been going till now. And I even feel so reluctant leaving them because it's such a wonderful community and company as well. So the key highlights for me in all this is just the importance of networking. So we need to be proactive in our networking. You don't just wait for events to come to you and stuff. You need to seek them, reach out, and also mentorship. Because in as much as I didn't get a lot of mentorship when I was transitioning, I want to like help anybody that is facing the challenge I faced then, or just anywhere you are. We have a lot of people that know better than us. We have people we know more than. So it's just good to seek mentorship and also give mentorship. So I would also encourage us to do that as I'm doing that as well. And in summary, I just want to say we should keep learning, learning, learning. I made that mistake last year when I was just all about the money, just working my company's work, doing my company's work, not really learning a lot. So I don't want to make that mistake again this year. Just highlight new things come out every day. Try to like adopt them, acquire more skills, improve yourself, and also not waiting for to know it all. If I had waited, before applying, I don't know, I wouldn't have gotten that job and I'd like it. So I like that I got the job. So don't wait to acquire everything before putting yourself out there, and try to share your achievement as well. I mean, I never stayed cool. Whenever I built something nice, I share it, and I found out that it was giving me more encouragement, more confidence, and just navigating like all challenges, being resilient. That was the first time I pushed my code to my current company when I joined. The first time I pushed to production, I broke the production site. Oh my God, I was so scared. I was like, oh God, what did I do? What have I done? It was even my manager then that was telling me, no, take a chill pill. That's normal. But I was still scared. But eventually, like, I had to bounce back. Like, I mean, everybody make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So just learn from it and move on, bounce back. And finally, I will also say that we should try to be researching on our own, having different resources to research, like utilize Google, utilize ChatGPT, just to make our research. And, it's going to make us improve more. And yeah, I'm going to drop the mic here, I believe. If you have any question, you can bring it on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. So what I will say is that you've got some comments about having a fantastic journey, which is absolutely amazing, and it does sound like it has been fantastic.
Thank you.
So Millicent has said that she's also Nigerian and studying microbiology, but switched to software engineering. So there's somebody out there with the exact same background as you as well, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I did have a question around,
Okay.
one side of it's like saying absolutely amazing that you stuck it out through, some negative feedback. But I guess on the flip side, like, how did you overcome that? How did you keep on going after you've received negative feedback so early on in the journey?
Okay, so the truth was, I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time I doubted myself, but I know where some of us doubt ourselves, but I think that helped me because I just knew that I could do anything. And also coming from when I was moved to mobile app development, yeah, so all those made me to like any challenge I have, I will use Google, I will do everything. So I already knew within me that no matter where I find myself, I can research, I can get myself out of it. So with that, I had the confidence already that like I'm very good. Like nobody is gonna stop that. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. So, another question that I did have actually about your background in microbiology. Did you find anything that was transferable from that to software engineering?
Honestly, no. I'm coming from Nigeria. No, I mean, we did introduction to computer science, but I never even attended any class there. I never did. I mean, I wrote the exam, but also we were introduced to bioinformatics, which is like coding in biology. So that was the first time I actually got interested in tech. But they didn't teach us any coding, but I picked interest from there. Not transferable skill, if you ask me, but interest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed
Thank
it.
you. Thank
Um,
you.
Hi, so we are on to our fourth speaker of the evening. So we have Chilatam, who will be talking about unveiling hidden vulnerabilities, a pen tester's guide to uncovering cyber threats. So over to you. Very excited about this as well.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, everyone. My name is Chilatam. I'll quickly share my screen. And do let me know when you can see, please. Okay.
Yes, we can see it, and you're about to share. Fantastic. We can see it now.
Okay. So today I'll be talking about unveiling vulnerabilities, or what we call weaknesses in most systems that exposed either online, like apps. I know one of the speakers talked about an e-commerce web app or something like that, or a couple of systems. It could be an infrastructure, it could be a mobile app. So just bear with me for the next few minutes, like 10 minutes, and I will be done with this talking. So the outline is more of understanding penetration testing, the importance of penetration testing, the approach I usually use, the couple of tools that I also use as well, the challenges I encountered, the key takeaways, and in case some of us have questions, I'll give us that opportunity to ask those questions. Thank you. What's penetration testing? Penetration testing, it's just, I want you to see it as an authorized simulated cyber attack on applications or systems you're trying to exploit or discover those weaknesses that exist on those systems before you release them to the market. Imagine you have an ATM card. Have you ever wondered why you're able to only withdraw money from your own account and not someone else's account? Because of course your bank, they've done a due diligence, they've checked the product, which is the ATM card, and they've ensured that it's well protected, and you're only able to access your account every time you go to the ATM machine. Now, the same thing, let's talk about something generic like crude oil. Every time someone sends out the raw material, which is the crude oil, to a refinery, the purpose of sending it out there is to get the product that you use in automobiles and drive it around, or a couple of other utilities. So think of cybersecurity as that way. The data that is put there is raw, but the information that gets at the end of you get at the end of the day to drive those apps or those systems, that's what's really important, and that's where we try to secure it. It plays a critical role in terms of penetration testing. You have to make sure you're able to identify those vulnerabilities. When you identify it, you mitigate it. You don't want a situation where you send off the oil to the refinery and you don't get the products that you use in your, let's say, automobile. You want to make sure that it's clean. You want to make sure it's not still crude. It doesn't have some artificial or some products that will make the automobile not to work. So in this case, if you have a web application or a mobile application or any other products out there, you want to ensure that once those APIs, web apps, the products there are out there online, exposed to the internet, you want to make sure they are secure. Now, when I start my engagements, the first thing I do is I try to look at things called the scope definition. I try to get a recon. What do I mean by recon? Recognizance is like going there and seeing what the company or that particular product is doing out there online. I have something like an analysis, couple of tools that I'll mention in the next slide that I use to ensure that those tools give me more information without me actively poking on the application or product. Then it moves me to the next stage where I exploit the system. And also, once I'm done, I have some post-exploitation processes in place. Every time I do this, I always have my consent. Remember, when we said is authorized, you have to have the consent signed on the scope definition. You have to have an NDA signed. There are lots of things that go into there in terms of your clearance. Then the end product is producing a report. You ask yourself, why do you go through this process over and over, and all you have to do is produce a report? I thought it was something technical. There are lots of things you could also face. There are people you also work with, like the engagement team, the penetration team, your teammates, and also teams like if it's a larger company, you have something called Security Operations Center team, Security Operations Center team. And those ones, you always have to do that because if you're not in loop with them, every time you're doing your engagement, if an alert goes off from your machine, they think it's a real attack. So you always have to liaise with this team. The tools I use are Bob Suite, Kali Linux. Kali Linux is like a framework within the Linux distribution system. And anyone that wants to find out weaknesses, let's take, for instance, if someone has given you a website and the first thing is you've signed the NDA, you've gotten your consent form signed, your company is aware that you're doing it, your manager is aware, and you're signed off to do an engagement. You could decide to say, okay, fine. Am I doing an external infrastructure? Am I doing a web application? Am I doing mobile? Am I doing a server review? Those are a couple of things you look at. Sometimes I try to put my folders in place and get everything ready for each engagement. I go to my Kali. If I've been given the permission and I'm about to start, I could just do basic things like getting the low-hanging fruits. What do I mean? If I have something like Wapalizer, I could just use it as an add-on on my browser and it can tell me all the software that the application is using. Once I'm done with that, I can go into more details, finding the software version. If it's using an old version, it could be that there's an exploit with a proof of concept. So anytime you have this proof of concept, you can see step-by-step methods that people have used previously to find out the weaknesses that exist within that particular application. That saves you lots of time. If you have, let's say, 5 days to do a penetration testing, you have to manage your time. You have to remember it's not everybody that is really as patient as you, because as you're doing the engagement, your customer they always want to get updates. They want to know, have you found any critical or high issue? You also have things like census or showdown. That's what I usually use at the very early stage. Qualys and Nessus, I don't know those of us on the call if we've heard about vulnerability assessment or vulnerability management. Those people that work within that team, they use Qualys or Nessus, but they stop there. The difference between that and what penetration testing is that in penetration testing, you have the authorized, let's say you're authorized to actually exploit a vulnerability if you find one. You don't just stop on the scanning level. You go in depth, you prove that that exploit is there. Then you have something like network mapping, which is short form of Nmap. Then SecList. SecList, SEC list is something, if you go to GitHub, it exposes lots of passwords out there that people don't actually use. And that's what typically, if you have, let's say, a username and a password compartment on your user interface on a web app, all you have to do is use this SEC list from GitHub, and you concatenate those two fields until you get one that goes through. Some of us say, oh, how is this possible? Have you ever asked yourself, since you're something like ISP, your internet service provider, since they gave you, I don't know, your Wi-Fi or your internet access in your house, have you ever changed your password? Have you ever changed your admin name or your Wi-Fi name? Do you still use the same thing over and over? So those are the kind of things that people go out for, the low-hanging fruit. If you just enter, I don't know which country some of us are in, but if you enter your company, the company that provides your internet service, and say default credentials on Google, you'll see a list of that. So it's not something new to attackers. This is something we always do and encourage people. The only difference is that when you use tools like Hydra, you can actually crack the password, even if it's in a salt form. When I mean salt, it's like encrypted. You can't really see everything in plain text. So there are lots of tools out there, both the ones you can subscribe to and the ones that are also exposed to you. Now, the challenges I faced could be, given the landscape, sometimes you find out that this threat keeps increasing with the advance of things like AI, artificial intelligence. You find out that it keeps increasing and you can't really grasp all tools that are coming up. But one thing is, if you're resilient, you will be able to actually understand what's going, and it's still going to be the same thing. What is the process? What process did I use last time? Can I improve on this process, or should I unlearn this process and relearn this new tool? Now you talk about people as well. You have to work with people. Sometimes it's not about, you could know all the coding languages, you could programming languages, you could know all the scripting languages, you could know how to use all the tools. But if you don't have a good rapport with the people, that's another problem. And as women, we barely see lots of women in penetration testing. As we all know that within at least the United Kingdom, the last time I checked, there were a couple of few women within the technology area, and we're still looking for people who are able to navigate through these evolving threats, whether it's lots of false positive coming out from those tools, whether it's having, when there's a process like regulations or compliance complexity, we need people. It's not a technical thing to speak with an audit person after having a report. You can just tell them what you see on the report and explain it to them in plain English, because those ones on the executive level, they're not interested in the technical know-how. They just want to know, what can I do to solve this? Now, the key takeaway that I will give us on this talk is, remember, penetration testing is an authorized simulated cyber attack or exploit. Don't think you saw a weakness or you saw an exploit somewhere and you want to do it on your own. Please never try that. Most people that did it, I don't know where they are, but unfortunately, I don't think they're in a good place now. Before you, even if you see something and it's so tempting of you to try to say, I can call attention to this company and tell them, provided you're not affiliated with companies like HackerOne or Bug Bounty, don't ever try to exploit those things. If you're within a business and you work within the cyber team, I will encourage you to bring other people on board. Someone talked about mentoring. A mentor is someone that talks to you. If you feel that you want to join the cyber team, speak with people that will want to take you up and lift you to a place where you would like to be. Another thing is, if you notice that you're struggling, you can look for a coach. A coach is someone that talks with you, like people that play football, they have coaches. You look for those people that can coach you. I don't know if some people pay, some people don't. Then you also look for sponsors. Sponsors are people that will put their reputation on the line for you. Thank you so much, and I'll leave it to questions now.
Thank you. I was just very excited about how much I've been learning this evening about all these different parts of the tech industry. So thank you very much for that. Whilst we're getting other questions in, I did have a couple. I've written down quite a few actually. One of my questions was around everything you were saying about, not doing it on your own, making sure that you're part of a company, that sort of thing. Is penetration, excuse my ignorance, but is penetration testing similar to or the same as ethical hacking? Are they different
Yes.
things?
Yes. So I would classify it to a layman understanding. I would classify those two as the same thing. See, Charlene, if you look at your phone now, the moment you have an update, right? Because that's your device, you're allowed to click on update this phone or update this laptop because that's you, that's your own device. The moment you try to do it on another person's device without their permission, that's called hacking.
Right, I understand.
Because the first thing you ask yourself, how did you get the passkey or passcode to the next person's device or the laptop? Isn't it? You must have cracked something to gain access to the person's device. So in terms of penetration testing or ethical hacking, you have to remember that as much as you like to do it, you like to solve problems, you like to do certain things, you have to be within the legality of your job to do that particular check.
That makes sense. Thank you so much. I'd heard both terms separately. I didn't realize that they were related. So that's really, really useful. And I had another question around where penetration testing sits. Does it sit within cybersecurity or does it fit within testing? Because I'd always thought of it as a type of tester, but is it actually a discipline within cybersecurity?
Okay, on the top level, there are different areas within cybersecurity. Let's take, for instance, if you've heard of defensive security and offensive security, penetration testing sits under offensive security. There's adversarial security, there's defensive security. If you recall, there was a slide I mentioned something like Security Operations Center. Those ones sit under defensive security. But for penetration testing, it sits under offensive security.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have a question that has come in on YouTube as well. So, how has penetration testing changed the era of biometrics?
Okay, so there are two things this person could want to know. Biometrics, you're asking, can it be hacked, right? Can you break a biometric system? There are different ways you could look at it, like thumbprint, the eye, the one that you get your eyes, the one that you use both your key and your thumbprint to unlock a device, or the one you just scan with just anything that you've actually put into your skin at some point, and you're able to scan it and walk through a door. So just as something is emitting, whether it's a RFID, radio frequency identifier, or something like that, it has something called protocol or a port. So provided that device is out there and it has either a protocol or a port that is talking to another device, it means there's a channel. The moment you have a channel, it means if I'm looking at port 443, let's use port 443 as an example. I know that every time I go to a website, it's the one with the green padlock or the one that has the padlock, which uses TLS or SSL. So every time I go there, I know that if I'm doing an engagement and I'm using my Bob Suite, there are a couple of things I have to look into to see if I can gain access into the web application. But if it's a biometrics, I have to have the physical device itself. So you have the ones that you have the physical ones, you have testing on CCTVs, you have testing, there are a couple of them you could go into. But the area most people that in terms of penetration testing is people really look into web application testing or external infrastructure testing, which sometimes some people call network testing.
Okay, thank you. I feel like I would genuinely want to talk to you for a very long time about, about cybersecurity and pen testing. But thank you so much. It's been really insightful. I know people
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank
Okay, we are on to our fifth talk of the evening, which is from Prosper. And this is our introduction to SQL Server databases and how to become a master in database performance tuning. So over to you, Prosper.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I hope you all can see my screen, right?
We can. If you share or present your slideshow, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to talk about introduction to SQL Server databases and how to become master in database performance tuning. So before we start, my name is Prosper Onyukwere. I studied physics in the university, and I'm a database administrator with 5 years plus of experience, and also a data analytics instructor. So actually, I've been in tech for over a decade, and so let's get into what we are here for. So Microsoft SQL Server is actually a relational database management tools that is actually used for storing data, and actually is the primary function of Microsoft SQL Server is to store and retrieve data as requested by client's application. So I believe that most people might have come across database servers. So does anyone know anything about database servers? Hello. Does anyone know about database servers? Okay. If no answer. Okay, yeah. So there are different types of database servers. We have the relational database management servers and non-relational database management system actually. So for relational database, we have SQL Server and MySQL. For Oracle and etc. So for non-relational database management system, we have NoSQL and lots more. So for Microsoft SQL Server, the one I'm talking about, it comes with its own implementation language called Transact SQL. So for you to have access to the server, you shouldn't have a little bit knowledge on how to use the language, that's the Transact SQL. For you to also have access to this SQL Server, you should know how to walk around with the interface tools such as SQL Server Management Studio. So it supports Windows, probably 32-bit and 64-bit environment. The next slide. Microsoft SQL Server has different versions ranging from 2000 to 2002, which is the current versions, and it has different editions. And these different editions comes with the business need and the business size also. We have the SQL Server Enterprise edition, which is actually meant for large business size, comprising of large databases. up to 10 terabytes upwards. We have the SQL Server Standard Edition. This is actually meant for medium size or lesser size business need. It comes with basic analytical tools and business intelligence tools. We have the SQL Server Web. It actually comprises, you can, small scale business can use this over the web. Is cost efficient. It comes with a lot of features, as well as the enterprise edition. We have the SQL Server Developer Edition, which is being used by developers. It has the same feature as the Enterprise Edition. There is the SQL Server Express Edition. This is a free edition that you can get if you are trying to learn how to use SQL Server. You can get this free edition and master how to use SQL Server. So key components of SQL Server, we have the database engine, which handles the storage and processing of databases. There is the SQL Server, which this is actually used to start and stop Microsoft SQL Server. So without this SQL Server being on, the database engine cannot work. So as a database administrator or a database consultant, I'm working with the SQL Server Management Studio, you should be able to know how to put on the SQL Server, that's the SQL Server, you need to put it on, know how to pause and continue. But this has to do, you have to, the knowledge of the client. You can't just on or stop it anytime you want as a database administrator or a consultant. It has to be a command from the hierarchy. Yes. Also, we have the SQL Server Agent. It actually used for scheduling jobs, jobs that you can run off work hours. We use the SQL Server Agent job to handle that. So it actually minimizes monotonous jobs that database administrators faces in their tasks. It can be used to schedule backups, can be used to run many things on SQL Server. The browser actually helps to bring incoming requests and direct it to any instance of SQL Server that is on. I forgot to mention that in SQL Server, you can have different instances. These instances can hold, each instance actually can hold about 32 databases upwards. So actually you have the default instance. That default instance, you can only have one default instance and many named instances in SQL Server. Okay, now let's talk about how to become master in database performance tuning. So as a database administrator or a database consultant, when you are being called or employed to optimize client database, probably the company is facing slow running queries, or they are finding it difficult to log in to the database server. That means the system is down. Nobody has access to the server. So for you to optimize this, there are things that you need to put in mind. That's the performance matrix that you should have in mind before you can become able to do this. And within with the process of doing this, you can master how to tackle performance tuning and troubleshooting. First on the list that you have to know is the CPU. In SQL Server, the CPU takes most of the spaces. So for you, if there is any performance issue in your environment as a database administrator, things that you have to look out for is the CPU. Is the CPU taking running or spiking to 100%? If it is spiking to 100%, that means you need to provision more CPUs to your server. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, since CPU is spiking to 100%, you need to provision immediately. No. First, you need to check if there is active transaction that is on in your database that you need to commit, so that there will be space. And it then talks about the disk also. if you are encountering slow running queries, or you are finding it difficult, or users are finding it difficult to access the database server, probably the disk is getting filled up. Now you have to check the configuration of SQL Server. Is it configured with the best practice? If it is not configured with the best practice, you need to go and check it. Make sure that the TermDB disk is actually given the right number of files to the TermDB. With that you can actually reduce the rate at which the disk is getting filled up. Another performance matrix you have to keep in mind as a database administrator or a consultant is the memory. You have to ask the company or anybody in charge, that's the network team, if SQL Server is actually allocated 80% of the memory of the server's memory. Yeah, it's very important. Actually, according to the best practice, allocate 80% of the server memory to SQL Server, because without that, SQL Server cannot perform optimally. So if the issue of slow running queries or users not being able to access the database server is the memory, then you have to reconfigure the memory size, allocating 80% of the server memory to SQL. Now you have to check the wait start. What is wait start? Wait start actually means how long it takes for a session to commit or for a transaction to commit. So wait start means that different users are trying to access that particular database. So when you check how long a transaction or a user finishes a transaction, it tells you, okay, this database or this server is actually having we are having issues with this server. So if there is too many wait starts in your environment, what you have to do is to know the user that is not currently doing any transaction, or the user that the transaction is less critical, that the user can actually kill the transaction, so that the user with critical transaction can commit the transaction. With that, you can stop any performance issue coming from wait statistics. And also, in wait statistics, we have different types of wait statistics. You can't just go and kill or tell a user to stop any transaction without knowing the type of wait stats that that particular database is facing at that particular time. Another issue that you have to, performance metrics you have to consider if you want to optimize a client database is the network. If a client is not accessing, or if a user is not accessing a database server, it might be from the network. Probably the network bandwidth is low. So what we have to do is this information needs to be, transmitted to the network people for them to solve the issue, because they are the ones to solve that particular network issue. The next metric that you have to consider as a proactive database administrator is the blocking session. In SQL Server, you should or you will encounter blocking session when running the query. So in a blocking session, if the query is not really optimized, you will encounter blocking session or possibly deadlock. When a deadlock happens, you will see that too many transactions will take time to commit. And that could be a problem to the database server, and users will be complaining. So checking blocking sessions will make you to know, okay, I need to work on this database server so that this blocking session will be reduced. Okay, let's get to the next slide. Okay, before we do the question and answer, I believe that most people might not really know what, how to get into becoming a database administrator. Becoming a database administrator is simple. First of all, you should, first start with any database server that you think you will jump into and know how to use it effectively. Some people major mostly on Microsoft SQL Server, some major PostgreSQL, and some major Oracle, and so on. So if you want to enter into database administration, you should know how to use the query language. It's very important so that you can actually manipulate or define how data are being stored. And next is if you are using SQL Server, for example, you need to be proactive. As a database administrator, you don't stop learning. The learning is very continuous because there are some error scenarios that you will face that the solution will come probably from the internet. Okay, you post, okay, this is the issue I'm facing. You post it over to the internet, you will get your answer. Then you have taken note of that issue and maybe you have found correction. What you will do is document it so that in the future, if you encounter that same error, you will know how to solve it. Also, you should know how to, have a mentor as possibly a database administrator that have a quite number of years in this tech skill. They will guide you on how to, carry out some certain tasks in database SQL Server. So every company needs a proactive database administrator, especially when the company has a data to secure. So they are looking out for a database administrator that has a very good security knowledge. They have very good understanding on how to troubleshoot and carry out performance tuning on their databases. And also you should know how to perform installation of SQL Server with the best practice, because if you install SQL Server without the best practice, you'll be encountering errors, which will possibly be a disaster to the company and possibly create a lot of downtimes. That is what the company do not need. So basically that is that as a database administrator. So if you have any question for me, I'll be glad to answer that.
Thank you so much for that. When I used to work with a lot of DBAs, I always had a lot of respect for them because there were so many things to think about. So really insightful to hear about how you actually do a lot of that performance tuning along the way as well. A question that I had around developing your skills within the area. Obviously, you were talking about whether you should be updating the CPU, the memory size, and such and such. Yeah. What sort of errors did you make along the way when you were discovering how to do fine tuning?
Okay, as a database administrator or a junior database administrator, first, you don't just go into the production environment and start testing. It can be disastrous. So actually, before you carry out any activity on the database, it should be done on the test environment or the development environment. So within that, if you find the error there, you troubleshoot it there before you implement it in the production environment.
Oh, I see. So if you saw an issue happening within production, you'd make sure that your test environment was representative of that so that you could reproduce it and correct it there before you were in production. I wish somebody had told me that at the beginning of my career because I know I made mistakes in production as well.
Yeah, it's very important.
I can imagine. Well, thank you very, very much. Once again, I know people have taken a lot from it, so we really appreciate that. And looking forward to potentially getting another update on more around performance tuning as well, and how we can maybe better manage our databases going forward too. But thank you very, very much. That was fantastic.
Thank you, it's a privilege.
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, we have our sixth talk of the evening from Ruth, and she'll be talking about From Prescriptions to Programming, My Unconventional Journey into Tech. So looking forward to this one as well. Over to you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the speakers who've spoken today. I've learned so much. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, my name's Ruth. So I'm a registered pharmacist. However, I'm now a software engineer, and I just wanted to share my unconventional journey into tech so far. Okay, yeah, so as I said, my name's Ruth. I live and work in London. I have numerous roles such as being a software engineer, a pharmacist, and also a blogger. So I have a tech blog where I share more information about my journey, which I'll show at the end. So we're taking it right back to my early introduction into tech. So I grew up in like a period where tech or the internet was just becoming portable. So we were moving away from having a desktop and a kind of static place where you'd go and visit the internet. And people started having the internet on their phones. The UI was very ugly and you couldn't really do much. But I feel like the internet and computers really started popping. And on top of that, my dad was an IT consultant. So that meant we basically had computers in every room. And I just remember going on it and spending hours playing my little Barbie games and talking to my friends on MSN. So yeah, back then, computers and technology was just a way for me to have fun and kind of remove myself from the outside world. So fast forwarding to that period at the age of like 16 to 19, where we have to choose our careers, I wasn't too sure on what I wanted to do. I knew that I really enjoyed science. Biology and chemistry were my favorite subjects. I wanted a career where I could help people because I thought that would be fulfilling. And I've put creative there with a question mark because from a young age, I was like the creative type. So I would like design brands from start to finish. I would draw pictures, I would create scripts and give it to my friends in the playground to act out. However, I think probably coming from an African background and also being quite academic, creativity was never really pushed towards me. And so all my career advisors and whatnot really pushed me down the healthcare route. So I decided to study pharmacy. So I studied at the University of Nottingham, and I actually really enjoyed pharmacy. I thought it was very broad. I got to study in Malaysia and do a research project out there. We learned economics, maths, business. I really enjoyed pharmacy, but I also knew that deep down I didn't really want to become a pharmacist. But during my studies, I think it's important to point out that I did have my, I guess, second intro into tech. So one random day, I thought, you know what, you hear about programmers, you'll see them like in movies, typing really, really fast and like trying to like crack the code and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to be like them. So one random day I sat down, I typed into YouTube Python lessons and started learning Python. And they got me to download like software and download Python. And I quit after probably 2 hours because I just had no concept of how you can go from a Hello World program to like games and big applications. I just had no context of that. So yeah, my coding journey didn't last too long, but I think that really sparked my interest in the world of code. So moving on. So within my studies, even though pharmacy, I was enjoying it, I think I still hungered for creativity. And so I started doing graphic designing on the side and just freelancing. So I taught myself Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, and I would create logos, branding content for small businesses, mainly through Instagram. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was creative. I got to work with lots of really cool people on different projects. So yeah, that really kind of satisfied my itch for creativity while I was studying. So yeah, I eventually graduated with a first in pharmacy. And the way it works in the UK is that after you graduate from a degree in pharmacy, to actually become a pharmacist, you need to do a kind of a year in industry. So I had to work as a trainee pharmacist for a year in a community pharmacy. And I think it was during this time where it just consolidated the fact that I really didn't see myself as a pharmacist long term. And yeah, that was just really kind of honed it home for me. And so during this time, I was training as a pharmacist, and then I was also doing my graphic design on the side. And it came to a point where, because I was attracting clients through Instagram, I said to myself, it would be a bit more professional if I had a website that I could display and all my clients can just go to there. So I started looking at first no-code options to build a website. And I was looking, and a lot of the time, if you use no-code or low-code options, there was not a lot of personalization that you could actually do on the website. And my main aim was to eventually provide website building services to my clients after I'd kind of mastered it for myself. And so I remember on one, I think it was WordPress or something, they said, well, this is our template. If you want to further personalize it, you're going to have to add some HTML, CSS. And I was like what is that? What's HTML, CSS? Why do I have to learn this? But I knew that it was necessary. So I started researching into it. And the first introduction I got was the free CodeCamp responsive web design course. It was like a 300-hour course. And in my mind, I was like, okay, I'll do this for maybe 1 to 2 weeks. I'll get the core concepts, and then I'll go off and start doing my website and doing it for clients. But I kind of opened a can of worms with that, because once I got stuck in, I literally never left. I just enjoyed it so much. They had us making like static pages initially. So we did landing pages, we did forms, and then they added JavaScript in. So now we were creating responsive and interactive web pages. And I just found it so fascinating, and I really got sucked into that world. And so, yeah, so I started researching more into what software engineering was, what web development was. I did more courses through places like Code1st, so their Python and apps course. I would message so many people on LinkedIn who were software engineers and ask them about their experience. And I also attended a lot of Coding Black Female Lightning Talks, and I just found them so inspiring, because people would come in and talk about their journey. They'd give advice, tips, and you'd be able to kind of follow their roadmap. And it's kind of surreal that now I'm on the other side talking about my own journey, so it's kind of like a full circle. But yeah, once I realized that people can actually get paid for doing this, I started getting serious about my transition into tech, essentially. So I registered as a pharmacist, and immediately after that decided to do a coding bootcamp. So for those of you who don't know what a coding bootcamp is, I'm sure you do, but just in case you don't, it's kind of like a fast track course where they teach you the fundamentals of software engineering. You will learn some programming languages, some computer science concepts, and you're likely to build applications within a team or personal projects. And I really enjoyed my coding bootcamp, mainly because I was so used to learning and building by myself, and now I was in an environment where I was with a community. They would encourage me, I would encourage them, we'd work together, and I was able to actually build within a team as opposed to myself. So it was an amazing experience. I did the Code1st Girls coding bootcamp, and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, after that bootcamp, it came the daunting time to start applying to jobs. And this is really daunting, because the way they do like technical and coding interviews is very different to what I was I was used to as a pharmacist. So you've now got to like prepare for either live coding interviews or take home coding interviews. You have to be able to articulate technical concepts. So it was very, very different. But my main tip for people who are interviewing in the tech space is to literally just go for it, even if you don't feel prepared, because interviewing, especially technical interviewing, is like a muscle. So you just have to work at it and strengthen it, and apply to like literally every job you can. Even if you don't want it, just see it as an opportunity to practice your interviewing techniques. So that would be my number one tip, because the growth that I saw in myself from my first interview to my last interview was crazy. Like you wouldn't even be able to recognize me. So yeah, just go and start interviewing even if you don't feel ready. So yeah, as you can see here, it wasn't easy and I got lots of rejections, but there were probably blessings because I ended up at a really good company and got employed as a technology analyst at an investment bank. So just to go over a bit about my role, so I work in the services sector of the investment bank. So what we do is we create features for accounts that big companies will use. So these are companies that people use in their day-to-day to get transport or to get food or go shopping. So we make sure that those companies are able to carry out their transactions, pay their staff, things like that. So it's a lot of interesting, hard but interesting work. So the number one question I probably get is why I made the switch from a pharmacist to a software engineer. And there's multiple reasons. To name a few, I think the first one will be that it's altruistic in nature, it's impactful. You can be coding an application in your room in tracksuits, but then it has the ability and power to impact or improve the lives of millions of people across the globe who you'll probably never meet, but your work is able to improve their lives. Again, the ability to create, to think of a concept and actually code it into fruition. The other day, I was thinking that I need to kind of streamline my budgeting process, and I just realized I can literally code an app to do that. So that's a really good feeling when you know that you have the power to just bring thoughts and visions into fruition. The ability to solve problems, to see a problem and know how to solve it. But I think ultimately it just comes down to this quote by Naval Ravikant that says, do what feels like play to you, but work to others. So essentially, when you're doing work that you love, you're more willing to put in time that others might not want to put in, which means that you'll probably have the hours to be a bit more better at it. When you're working in a team with people who enjoy the work they're doing, you have better team morale, you're more likely to inspire others, and it's generally something that will increase your overall well-being, And so to me, it was just a no-brainer to go into a career that I genuinely did enjoy. To finish off, I'm just going to go over some tips that I have for transitioning into tech that helped me during my journey. The first one is to know your why. So just have either a phrase or just something you can go back to when times get hard or when you come across like a tricky bug, because they will come, whether it be because you want to have a remote job or you want a job that can impact millions of people worldwide. Just have a why and even plaster it on the wall somewhere just so you can go back and be focused. My second tip, we've already been through this, but don't start interviewing when you're ready, start before, and then your interviewing technique will sharpen up by itself. If you can, learn in public. So a lot of the time, people will post on Twitter or LinkedIn about what they're learning, and it just generates a community that will encourage you, which leads on to the fourth one, which is find coding communities. The fact that you're watching this already shows that you're already one step ahead but it really does help encourage you and keep you on track. And the last one is to check out Rueful Tech. So this is my blog where I just post things that I've learned from my journey transitioning into tech. And I actually started this blog because a lot of the time my friends and family would ask me, what is this coding thing? What's software engineering? How did you transition? Blah, blah, blah. And I honestly got tired of repeating myself. So I was like, I'll put it all in a blog. And yeah, I just share that online. So that's all from me. If you want to connect with me, if you want to talk with me, if you have any other questions that you don't want to say out here, feel free to message me on any of my social medias. And thank you for listening.
Amazing, thank you. Another fantastically inspirational talk. I've just gone to your blog as well. It does look amazing. So I can't wait to read everything you put up there. And I know someone just said that your blog is amazing as well. So that's absolutely
thank
fantastic.
you, I appreciate it.
I guess I had a couple of questions as well. One of my questions was around, so you mentioned a little earlier that you wanted to explore your creativity and you were doing loads of elements around creativity, but then you kind of went further down not further down the journey, but down a slightly different path into software engineering. You not stop at creativity and you know, maybe go into UX or front end development, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I did try that, but I felt like in terms of functionality and then also the problem solving aspect of it, I thought I could get that a bit more with software engineering. So UX is like it's another great path, and I did look into it and it's nice. But I felt like after designing, I actually want to implement it. So that's why I pushed through that and went further into software engineering.
Fantastic, thank you. We've had a question on YouTube. How did you figure out the exact path that you wanted to choose? So I know that you've spoken a bit about, you know, the reasons that you didn't go down the creative side, but also, you know, you mentioned starting off in Python and, you know, there are other languages out there. How did you choose your path? Like, how did you choose your path?
Honestly, because of time, there was a lot I left out of this presentation. But if you could probably see my real path, you'd see that it was very messy. There was times when I would like do R for a week and then put it down, and then I'd do look at databases for another week. So I was just, my hand was in different pots. And I think I just chose which one felt natural, which one was easy, which one I was interested in. So even like the initial like web development one that I did, it just felt easy, like I enjoyed it. It was almost as if I wasn't learning, I was just having fun or playing a game kind of thing to me. But now when people ask me, I say either do that or try to see what kind of area interests you, whether that's like cloud engineering, cybersecurity. Look at a job posting and basically pick skills or technologies that they use and use that to like list your route. Because I think I took quite a messy one and it took me a bit of time where I could have had a more streamlined route, but I got there in the end.
That's awesome though. And I think sometimes, even though it feels like it was messy, all of that helps you to decide on that path, right? And now you've explored those different areas and you've solidified yourself in a particular area as well. Fantastic. Another question. How did you know what role you wanted to do in tech? So you've just mentioned, you know, doing some of that research, but because you went down there learning the language first, how did you then figure out the role you wanted? And a follow-up question is why you chose finance and not medtech?
Good question. So in terms of the role, I think I don't know. I think I just kind of felt it, to be honest with you. I think I just fell into it. I didn't have like a specific strategy or anything. I didn't go into medtech because I think I was so immersed in pharmacy. I just wanted something completely different. And I did have an interest in like finance and economics. I did take it for A levels. but the only reason I didn't study it at university was because I was told that you need maths with economics. So it was kind of like an interest of mine that kind of got stumped early on. So when I got the chance to kind of revisit it again, I was like, why not? And in addition to that, finance tends to pay well.
Yeah, I've heard that. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing, super inspirational from you, but all the speakers. Can't thank you enough, all of you, for getting involved this evening and sharing your stories, your knowledge, your expertise with the community. I know that people have found it really beneficial already, and more people are going to get to watch as well. So it's going to be great for them too. So thank you very much. What we can do now, so we have run over a little bit, but that's fine. I knew we'd run over. If anybody wants to stick around for some networking, you're more than welcome, because you can ask maybe some of the speakers some more questions in like a one-on-one or a 3-on-1, I don't know, in a group setting. So we can do some networking if you'd like to stick around for that. If anybody would like to say anything, I will let you now unmute if you'd like to, or turn on your video if you'd like to as well. If you want to turn on your camera for a bit, say anything. But we can do some networking as well. But thank you so much to our speakers. It's been awesome to have you tonight. Okay, so what we tend to do now, I'm going to open up breakout rooms. We can probably just do one round because we have run over the time of just getting to meet each other a little bit. It's one of the fun bits about being able to connect in this way as well. So I'm going to open up our breakout rooms, and you can go in groups so that people are not in there on their own. And I'll leave them open for about 5 minutes so that you can have a chance to say hello. Lovely. I'm going to open the rooms and have a fantastic time. Feel free to meet each other.